to all the medical professionals, uh, security guards, cleaning professionals all over the world, especially here in Southeast Asia. Thank you very much for your service. So let's jump straight in. We have an hour and a half of content, an hour and a half of interaction, an hour and a half of a lot of sharing. And before anything else, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Vijay Africa, and I am the Managing Director of Singapore and Malaysia, and I am also the CTO of IT and Business Solutions for ITG. Just a little bit about myself. I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship, a big fan of technology, and this webinar is very close to my heart because it touches on not just technology, but also on people, entrepreneurs, business people across the region. And I'm proud to be a resident of Southeast Asia. For me, the most dynamic region in the world. And again, thanks for spending the next hour and a half. It's going to be a sprint. You may have to hold up that hunger, or if you need to a little break, please hold it up. It's going to be a big sprint, but it's going to be worth it. We have prepared a lot of content for you. We have a lot of special guests, and even beforehand, I want to say thank you to everyone who's joining us today, who will be sharing their knowledge, sharing their experience, sharing their insights. There's been a lot of work that we put into this session, and we really hope you find it very useful and find it very entertaining as well, and very interesting. So, I'll just run through the agenda just for everybody's benefit. We'll start off with a bit of a status quo per region, and I'd like to call it like a state of the nation. So in the Philippines, there was a state of the nation a couple of days ago. We're going to have our own version, and we may not have invited the different presidents or the leaders of state, but we've invited leaders of different organizations within NetSuite and ITG, and we're very excited about that. So we'll share a bit of the state of the nation, and we'll have a fireside chat. And again, we guarantee a lot of information, and we'll keep it interesting and moving quite nicely. We also have, at around 10:50, we have a special guest, someone who will share a new way of addressing problems. And these could be old problems or new problems, but a new way of addressing them, a new way of analyzing them, and a new approach altogether. And we're hoping you find that very useful and informative as well. And then we'll have a bit of fun. We'll break out for a bit, and we'll have 3 different breakout rooms. Don't worry, you don't need to do anything. The magic of technology will zoom you out of the plenary and zoom you back into the plenary. So it's going to be a 15-minute session. Again, a bit of a sprint. Time is gold, so we want to make sure that the next hour and a half is really valuable for you. And then we have a special guest all the way from sunny Florida, although I think it's 10 in the evening, so not as sunny anymore. All the way from Florida, and he'll be sharing some information about, again, strategies in terms of addressing the situation that we're in. So that's a good segue to my chat. But before anything else, we're Asians. We love tokens. So please answer the survey. We also would love to hear feedback from you guys. So please answer this survey, and you get a chance to win something. I don't know what yet, but it's going to be worth it. Trust me. We also have organized. Oops, sorry. Can you go back to the Telegram group? We've also organized some Telegram groups so that the dialogue, the conversation continues even after this sprint. And the key here is, part of addressing this pandemic is, working together. And as ITG, we venture together. So we want to make sure that you guys still keep in touch, hopefully, and build that community. So we've got a Singapore Telegram group, a Malaysia Telegram group, Indonesia Telegram group, as well as a Philippines Telegram group. Last but not the least, just some guidelines. So we'll request that everyone stay on mute so that all attention will be on the speaker. And just a small request as well to change your Zoom name to your full name. And this is just for attendance checking purposes. And then last but not the least, we want you to ask questions, so feel free to shoot questions to any of the speakers. All right, so without further ado, we've got a couple of really interesting speakers. I'll introduce them one by one, but I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot of the situation, and they'll give you more country-specific snapshots. So just in case you've been asleep for the past 4 months, we are in, I don't know if we're in the middle, I don't know if we're just at the start, who knows, but we're in a pandemic. And as of July 6th, it's been tough, and this is just a quick snapshot of what the world looks like. In Southeast Asia, we're as badly hit. And even when you look at, again, the numbers speak for themselves. Now, this is not a doom and gloom webinar, so don't worry. Our intention here is to give you just a framework, just an idea, a starting point of, again, where we're at. So this is, again, just a visual for that. Looking at the next slide, here's the interesting thing bit though. The adoption of digital sales channels is on the rise. So I'll read this out loud because I found this very interesting. Most first-time customers are satisfied or very satisfied with digital adoption, and the majority plan to continue using digital post-COVID. So obviously this pandemic has given us a reason as customers, for example, to try something different. And the good news is that 86% are actually satisfied with that particular approach. But so are B2B decision makers. So you can see a significant jump. So in the dark of night, we see light, right? There are ways to address the pandemic. However, and again, this is a quick snapshot. If we look at the next slide, there is general sentiment that we are experiencing, and again, the numbers speak for themselves, that there is a worsening economic situation globally. All right, so enough doom and gloom, I think, at least for me. I'd now like to introduce our distinguished speakers. And let me just introduce first and foremost, someone to represent, or at least to give us a state of the nation, so to speak, for Singapore. And let me introduce my good friend very quickly. So let me just run to the intro slide. Peter Kwek. So I'll just read this out loud very quickly. So Peter is a business leader with more than 20 years of experience in field sales management and information technology solution selling and managing B2B sales across industries. He's very passionate, and I know this personally, about bringing disruptive technologies to startups, fast-growing companies, pre-IPOs, and conglomerates. Operationally competent with extensive experience in cross-cultural management across Asia-Pacific, emerging markets, especially ASEAN. Highly skilled at talent acquisition, coaching, and maximizing team performance. I've known Peter for a couple of years, and the reason the organization has grown in Southeast Asia is thanks to his leadership, as well as his, I would say, just the desire to help organizations as well as help people. So without further ado, Peter.
Thank you, Vijay. I hope that you all can hear me. And good morning, everybody. It's great to be here in this webinar within the confines of my home. But actually, it feels good to be working from home and at the same time, speaking with you all via webinar live. So very quickly, asked to share about the state of nation in Singapore, what's happening here. You all would have already seen a lot in the media, so I will not talk too much about that. Again, we're not spared. Lots of disruption happening here in Singapore as well, just as much as it's happening in other countries, all right? Yeah, so high level, I will not go into all these bullet points, but very quickly, high level, disruption happening from businesses to workplaces to schools to retail to malls, etc. Right, and how the government, the Singapore government, is coming in to play a key role to ensure safety, to protect lives and livelihood during this period of time. I think these are the critical things that the government is doing. You would have already heard the government in Singapore, you know, make a unprecedented move that is going to the reserves to you know, put together a stimulus package amounting to something like $100 billion Sing dollars in support of businesses to save job, to save the livelihood and lives, of course. That 100 billion is about 20% of the national GDP. Well, I just want to give that high-level statement, and on the state of nation, more to come later on when we have the fireside chat. All right, I will talk about some of the things that's happening. Thanks a lot, Vijay.
Thank you, Peter. So Peter has this way of being very comforting and very reassuring, even when he's talking about challenges, and that's great. Um, so let me move on to our next speaker, and this person I barely know. Um, no, I've been working with Ruby for a long time. She's the regional technology manager for business management solutions, and she's had roles in the past that involve web and application development, project management, as well as being a product manager. So she's passionate in business analysis and making technology work for businesses to improve and grow by providing insights and advice to organizations. She's now a technology manager for ITG, handling business management solutions. She's a certified NetSuite ERP consultant, administrator, and when she's not that busy, she's also our internal quality audit chairman for our ISO certification. So without further ado, Ruby.
Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga sa mga Pilipino at nakakaintindi ng Pilipino. Right, so good morning, and I'm so glad to see you all today. So next slide, please. And it's such a privilege to see and to share with you the state of the Philippines, to share across our guests from different regions the status of the Philippines. So as you would know, you can see in the slide we're more than 80,000 in terms of cases, but let's not dwell on that one, as BJ said. So there's also like a unique way in the country in managing the community quarantine. So, and it's still being implemented depending on the situation of the region, of the city. So Metro Manila is in GCQ, as they call it, General Community Quarantine. Hence, our economy was able to reopen. While public transport, a very critical one for everybody, is now available, but within region, I heard from the news earlier that today other public utility vehicle will be already operational. And at the same time, essential travel restriction has been lifted. So there are no airline travel around. And of course, here we can see the forecast from ADB of the negative GDP. And this is like, many people get scared or fearful about it. However, of course, the government is there to support. So it allotted the budget, especially for the MSMEs, of course, to be able to continue their operations if they need cash subsidy, or I mean loans program. So that is provided by DTI. Next slide, please. And how about what's going on in the different industry? So since the ECQ has been implemented, so we have become like home economy run, and the rise of the home enterprise. So maybe most of you, if not all of us here and who are in the room or attending the webinar, you have your own small hustle or grind around that is like you're selling bags or clothes or home cooked foods, and that is what made the economy running while the ECQ is growing. So according to one of the leaders in the e-commerce in the Philippines, Steve C, so the ECQ became the inflection point of e-commerce. And at the same time, we see the rise in agriculture. Everyone is planting. The demand for agricultural supplies has rose up. However, the sad reality is 26% of page businesses closed since COVID-19 pandemic. But maybe some of those has been transferred to the home economy or the home enterprise, or maybe most. At the same time, there's also a forecast that BPO will have a resurgence after towards the latter part of the pandemic. So that is according to the DOLE. And if you are joining or if you are active in the social media, you've seen a lot of new local marketplaces, local apps wherein you can buy everything. And it's just amazing how the creativity of the Filipino and the innovative mindset was born, or maybe was triggered out of this pandemic. And you would also see that more careers has started, maybe the small, supporting this dispersed community or dispersed employees. So they are now becoming like a courier service provider. And at the same time, the DTI is now running the campaign of Go Local. So that is to support Filipino products and buy them. And if you are not part of this group, so this is like Bounce Back PH official. So it has been a very strong community that supported many businesses all throughout the pandemic. Bounce Back, there were new partnerships that were built, new trainings were provided across because of this community. And it's a beautiful community that really helped many of us right now. And the next is, there you go. So we all know that the government also adapted, transition to the cloud. So it's now the cloud first policy for the government. And one thing is for sure, that those who are the early adopters remained open for this business all throughout. So when they adapted technology prior to the COVID, then it's really well. So I'll share with you some of our customers who were able to cope up very well. And at the same time, we all know most in the Philippines, we want like a face-to-face implementation. We want face-to-face meeting. But suddenly we accepted remote meetings, remote technology implementation. And that has been like significantly changed the mindset of many of us. And also very interesting thing that happened is like the demand for artificial intelligence, the robotic process automation, and also the chatbots. They are everywhere. Like if you can see them when you browse a page in the social media, you visit a website, they're like the chatbots are there and they're alive, responding to our inquiries, and then we are placing orders with a respond of a chatbot. That has never happened before the pandemic, or adoption has never been this fast. And there has been also like for the integrations, those who are early adopters, they are now connecting all of their solutions into one so that they can talk to each other. Then there will be a single view of their data. Nothing has increase in cloud adoption has never been this far as well. So at the same time, cashless payments. So we can see the government, InstaPay, GCash, the Union Bank leading the digital transformation in the industry. And now, today, we are doing a webinar, a CN webinar, not face-to-face, but we're using a platform that allowed us to gather like today. So yeah, that's
Painom.
Thanks, Rubes. Thank you, Ruby.
all right.
Okay. All right. Let me jump from Singapore to the Philippines. Now we're jumping to Malaysia. And let me quickly introduce a friend of mine as well. So Mr. Kenny Hong has over 20 years of experience, although it will not show by his charming looks in ERP, CRM, and business applications. He currently leads a team of NetSuite solution consultants across Asia. So solution advisory to organizations in adopting leading practices using NetSuite Cloud Platform. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic to Kenny, who incidentally, he himself is a very, very good host. I've seen a couple of his webinars. So over to you, my friend.
Thanks so much, Vijay, for the opportunity to share in this webinar. And hi, everyone. My name is Kenny, and I actually work with some of the best pre-sales consultants in the business. And for sure, they played a vital role in the success of NetSuite. The region that I support is ASEAN and Hong Kong. Together, my team and I, we deliver solution advisory to clients in specifically adopting leading practices using the cloud solution. Okay, so like what Peter and Ruby has shared on the country's outlook, I think for Malaysia, if you can look at the numbers for Malaysia, perhaps it is one of the country that is worst hit with this pandemic, a negative 3.1% deceleration, if you like. But the positive, outlook for Malaysia in 2021 is that the country is expected to recover due to strong fundamentals, and that's a sign of relief for everyone, including the business community in Malaysia. Next slide, please. So I think in terms of stimulus package, if I can just focus on the businesses for SMEs, there is a lot of emphasis on digital, supporting businesses in terms of the commerce platform, in terms of promoting their business through online campaigns, as well as grants and loans for digital transformation. That's the buzzword that is going around. All that we have learned, and recently, next slide, please. Recently, there's a concern. There is a sudden spike of COVID cases. This happened about a week and 2 weeks ago. So this is another warning sign, a second chance, if you like, for us to be really prepared, and this would not have come as a surprise anymore. For businesses to prepared for business continuity measures, to invest in technology, to prepare our workforce, to streamline our business processes, to anticipate. Hopefully, this does not happen, but let's be prepared for any second wave of COVID cases. And that's the status as of now. Hopefully, this will not happen. I will share more about how our customers have actually gone through this journey with us so far in a later stage. Thanks. Back to you, Vijay.
Thanks very much, Kenny. Last but not the least, a quick snapshot of Indonesia. And then I just realized we love pre-sales people. We have Kenny, and Fivda is actually the head of enterprise solutions, which is essentially the pre-sales and architecture team in our Indonesia office. So he's responsible for providing solutions for governments and enterprises. Also with 20 years of experience in IT consulting and focusing on enterprise scale business solutions. He's been doing it for the last 7 years. So part of the solutioning is end-to-end solutions, based platforms, and systems integration. So also a very seasoned individual, but also very young looking. My friend Fivda, over to you.
Okay, thanks, PJ. Okay, so excellent morning, everybody. My name is Fivda, so I'm the head of enterprise solutions of ITG Indonesia. Most of our clients is telco and banking and some other manufacturers. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is what I'm going to talk about. How's the status quo or current condition of Indonesia? This is the conditions of 2 days ago on 27th of July. So most affected area, if you can see the map there, small map, is the big cities, which is in Java Island. The graphic on the right is, okay. Can you still hear me? Right. So the graphic on the right says it's increasing, but seems like it's going not too steep anymore. So according to the Ministry of Finance, the current growth in economy is the median is -4.1, which is quite high for us. The government is taking this seriously. They're doing both economy effort to bounce back and also controlling the pandemic by creating economic and COVID-19 task force. The government is spending like $5 million just for the health sector. Also giving tax relaxations for businesses with high numbers of workers. While it is also imposing regulations that we call PSBB, which is limiting social gathering and movement, which includes limiting gathering more than 5 people, reduce operational hours for public transportations, reduce in restaurant dinings. But currently it's already open now in Jakarta. We go to transitions right now. Some cities has been relaxed, including Jakarta. And good news is Bali is open. So if you want to go to Bali, this is a good time. I just received news from my friend in Bali. The safety is controlled, and most likely you will get your auto upgrade to your hotel rooms. Okay, next slides, please. So how are we surviving the business now? Because the bonus demography, which is in 2020, the numbers of productive age, which is 15 to 60, is 2/3 of the total populations. This is predicting still going up, and it will rise until 2030, next 10 years or 15 years. And this age is expected to be more resilient. And related to this fact, the generation is also exposed to the technology, especially the internet and social media, e-commerce. This is a fertile soil for the digital economy. If you look at the current business that is surviving in Indonesia, it is mostly online now. See the Tokopedia, Blibli, Bukalapak, those names, and then you have digital wallets, amongst them OVO, GoPay, right? Online health services just happened to be in the market right before the pandemic. If you see there are names down here, HelloDoc, HelloDoc, so many doc, okay. And the educations online universities already running, new players such as Ruang Guru, Zenius, Zipers. So Kuiper, they provide online learning content for schools age. Due to the pandemic now, even the elementary school now is needing laptops because they have to do school from home. I have 2 sons, both are using laptops now. In my age, only uni students using laptops. So something new for us now. Due to the fact of that one, those facts. So in the last decades, the big companies have been investing to digital startups. You can see some big names in Indonesia now. Tencent, Alibaba, JD, SoftBank, Venture Capital, right? Next slides, please. So what is the impact? What are we doing to keep the business going? Actually, the previous slide, we see that the internet platform plays a pivotal role. This is shifting to online platform because it's thought to be safest place for daily activities such as shopping, working, or meetings. The crisis is speeding up the digital revolutions. This was predicted to happen, but now it's been speeding up. The offline businesses and services has plunged due to social distancing regulations, or because of the people realizing that it is not safe to be meeting face to face now. So, of course, some hybrid services is also affected. What I mean by hybrid is online services, which also consist of the offline one, like motorcycle taxi or online orders for house cleaning. Those things are also affected. So online ones is the one has been replacing the offline competitors. There's a spike on online transactions. According to Tokopedia, Bukalapak, Blibli, they are our online marketplace. They have 400% increase of transactions. So the market is changing shapes. It is still there, but it's just changing shape. The businesses are forced to go to digital now. So even for some parts that is hybrids now being replaced by AI robotic, no touch technology. If you go to the parking place, you don't touch the parking machines anymore. Just wave on it. And then more companies is now exploring touchless, remote, online ways of processes. So this going digital will stay, I think, because they realize to be more efficient in terms of operating costs, more safer, and is highly available. So in my conclusion, the business are changing shapes online to remote ways. This is to fit in with the market demand now. And the resource in Indonesia is also available. So I'd say in Indonesia, it's perfect time to do it, to go digital, go online, go remote, be creative in it. Okay, thank you very much.
Alrighty, thanks, Victor. Okay, so we have roughly around 12 to 15 minutes of having a fireside chat. So I've got a couple of quick questions, and you know we'll try to make this as interactive as possible. So you know I'll ask a question, and then I'll throw the question to different members of the panel. Okay, so we've gone really big picture, so a global view of the pandemic and the potential economic impacts. We've gone at the national level. I'd like for us now to zoom into customers. So these are the organizations that are closest to us, which are our customers. And I'd like to just quickly run through, probably a first question would be, how has the pandemic and obviously the lockdown impacted some of your customers? And maybe a quick follow-up question to that is, what are the recovery actions? As some of the economies are opening up and some businesses are resuming, some are transitioning into the new normal, as is now cliche. So yeah, quick question: how has it impacted the customers, and what are the recovery actions? And ladies always first, so I'll ask Ruby, and you can just give us one quick example, maybe.
All right. So yeah, I think I'll answer the first. For the Philippines, one of our customer that I could share, like AgriNurture. So they launched Ani Express during the pandemic. So from the distribution business of fresh fruits and vegetables, then they accepted online orders and delivered at the doorstep of the customers. We also have like another customer. They distribute 3M food safety products. So before the ECQ was implemented, they managed to set up their printers in their warehouse that allowed them to operate and deliver. So using NetSuite, they are able to generate invoice at the warehouse instead of the head office, which is their current setup when they were before the lockdown was implemented. So they were recognized in their community that on how they are able to respond to the pandemic really well, that allowed them to operate smoothly despite the restrictions that has been implemented by the government.
Very, very cool. Peter, can I throw the same question?
Sure.
Yeah. So how has it impacted your customers and recovery actions?
Yeah, certainly. We saw, and we are still seeing a shift in the consumption patterns, right? From institutions, from your big wholesale distributed supply to say, hotels and all these big corporates and so on, the B2B type. Now shifting to households, where we are seeing a spike in demand, right? Changing the supply chain practices from your order management to your packaging to your fulfillment. The customer profile suddenly has changed, right? And definitely, need to look at the efficiencies in the supply chain, for these businesses as well, right? Adjusting to the engagement model is very important, right? And of course, ability to manage these B2C customer transactions now in a different way, right? So certainly it's impacted big time. And the recovery actions here, I talk about Singapore government coming up to support, It's more than just about the support from the government. I think the recovery action, in my view, I'm seeing that businesses need to be extra prudent themselves during this period of time, and obviously having to reduce costs of business by reducing drastically, from their renters to redeploying staff because the way they're going to work is very different from before. And any cost of doing business for the matter, right? And tightening the expense, the cost control is certainly very important. Watching the cash flow. So you talk about facilities, outlets, HR, salaries, etc. Those are the main ones. This is certainly the kind of recovery action that I'm seeing businesses taking, right?
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. I'll throw the question to Fifda as well. So maybe you can share how this pandemic has affected your customers and what are the recovery actions?
Right. So most of our, like I said before, the most of our customers banking telco, so they're very strict before in giving remote accesses. Now the remote access is being opened, but very well selected and controlled. So we still can do, for the workers, they can do remote working. And for our support, we can also do support, but of course with the high security. So, and some of our customers still working from home or by shifts. They're not allowed to go to public restaurants or dinings, person-to-person meetings, or relationship with the customers, which needs us to have face-to-face is reduced. In our some of our customers, they require us to do online registrations before meetings. So we have to fill in some questions about the health before visiting their offices. So during the pandemic itself, most of their online promotions is being opened again. So they're reopening their businesses. So they go through the online promotions. This is because more of the people now is exposed to the internet. So that's why offline promotions may be not as much as online promotions now. Okay. And what do they do? That's what do they do. I think they're gonna go back stronger because they reach faster, right? They realize it's more cost effective now, which I think that's what happened in Indonesia now.
Great. I love the optimism, by the way, Fifda. Over to you, Kenny. So give us some sample customers and some recovery actions that have taken place.
Sure, Vijay. I think for Malaysia, we've been keeping really close to our customers, throughout the pandemic from the beginning. Impact-wise, to quote an example, we've got a frozen food manufacturer. So they've seen a tremendous shift in terms of sales that move from restaurants, and now they are getting orders in e-commerce that's about 10 times what they used to get. As you know, I think experienced by all countries in ASEAN as well. Restaurants were not permitted to open for dine-in guests, and only takeaways are possible. That shifted away from restaurants to the retail market. Manpower-wise, the sales department in this customer, they were retasked, repurposed, if you like, to manage delivery even during this tough period. In terms of recovery actions, the management of this customer is really visionary, if you like. They are firm believers of digital transformation. They have invested greatly in transformation, in technology, in cloud, and their entire backend system is cloud ready. I had the privilege to understand more about their plant as well. It is run by very little human human intervention. The next step would be to ensure their workforce has the necessary equipment to be able to work from home. And this is for the longer term. I think they're probably going to transition into, partially working from office and most likely from home as well. Just before the pandemic took place, they had plans to expand into other countries. And now with the right technology, with a scalable backend system, they can, continue with that plan to expand into other countries.
Cool. Okay. Sorry, just in the interest of time, I will throw one last question, and maybe a bit of a rapid fire. And this is essentially, I guess the key takeaway is what how many months into this? Maybe 4 months, 5 months into this. What are the key learnings? And we'll run through the same order. From Ruby's perspective, what are the key learnings in terms of what you can pick up from customers, what you can pick up from yourself as well?
All right. Thank you, DJ. So I think one important thing learning is now, as everybody's saying, is the adoption of the technology. So specifically, is cashless payment. So we have never been transacting cashless payments this way before the pandemic, and I think this will continuously grow. And since platforms are available now to even in the provinces that supports this cashless payment, so this will enable, and it's a great challenge for everybody to be able to accept cashless payments. And the second thought is that since the pandemic, we all wanted to go digital. Everyone has the quick pivot activities just to go digital. But going digital doesn't always mean transformation. If you will, but just bringing your old ways in the digital space. So going digital would always mean like a change in your mindset and a change on how you view your customers, change on how you view your customer expectation and respond to them, and as well as the change on how fast or how you will adapt to new technology. So it's no longer like wait and see what will happen if this company will implement new technology and then we will follow after. That's no longer the mindset, but rather the agile companies, those who respond well, and as told by Fibdad and Kenny, those who are visionary, they are able to adapt early and they are able to recover fast. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Peter?
Yeah, so for me, key learnings will be whether you call it, MCO, or, in the case of Philippines, you have got your ECQ, Singapore circuit breaker. Well, all these measures basically contain the spread of COVID, right, as we all know, right? And the key thing here is that, this underline the importance of the technology, right? Are heavily reliant on digital technology these days, right from your collaboration platforms through your cloud-based services and the cyber security solutions, right? Now, this is basically it became a lifeline, right, of all businesses, irrespective of their size or their industry sector. You even walk into a small restaurants in the past, they're not even using any technology, and guess what? Suddenly you see that they're using it, right? And if anything, the pandemic has underlined that cloud computing's importance further. The key areas that I think businesses should pay attention to, obviously, without doubt, people and safety, right? Leveraging technology to drive business at scale and speed that you really need now, right? Because this is really about livelihood that we need to save. It's an ongoing business. You just want to make sure your people continue to stay employed and they stay relevant in response to all these pandemic. The way I see us coming out of this stronger is to find that right balance, I will give you 4 C's to take away. The first C is care, and by care I mean protect, all right? Protect lives. Second C I will put out there is costs, all right? Reduce costs. We keep in mind we are not in the same situation before. You got to watch the costs very carefully. And then the third C is cash flow. You got to watch this very closely because this is certainly life, but this is very important, all right? And of course, the last C is change. Change, you need to respond to these, leveraging technology. And we're doing all these 4 C's basically keeping in mind of the big C there, and that's your customer, all right? Your customer in mind. And I think that will be what I will put as key areas that all businesses should pay attention to.
Great, thanks, Peter. So I took notes. It's now in my post-it. Pifta, so what are the key learnings from your side?
Okay, I think now in Indonesia, the internet has become more and more reliable, even in remote accesses. So even now in one house in the cities, we have more than one internet connections just to make it reliable. So business owners now are more highly available for their businesses and also for your businesses. Okay. Long time ago, we were dreaming of doing work from wherever you are. Now it's made possible in Indonesia now. Okay. So, and the second key learning is we need to adapt to online and remote since it is more efficient. Just for a simple example, previously we were stuck in traffic jam for hours. I think this happens not only in Indonesia. To attend meetings, this is not efficient. So it is no more traffic jam for us, and the line is there, so it's available. So it's good to go.
Great to hear. Yeah, I don't think anybody. You're right, Pifta. I don't think anybody misses traffic. Last but definitely not the least, Kenny, some key learnings.
Yes, I think we can take away 3 main learnings, and it applies to all businesses. We should focus on maintaining, of course, business continuity. And how is that possible? We need to ensure there is number one, visibility. Visibility into your business means having historical data at your hands, having visibility into your current data, especially liquidity, which is most relevant at this time. And with that information, then you can have a informed vision ahead. What should be your next step? That's visibility. The second would be on control over your businesses or your business in terms of process. Maintaining tight processes like putting in place approvals, streamlining business processes where relevant, ensuring there are KPIs that are accessible in real time if possible, and ensure there is constant communication with your team members, be it good news or bad news. I think we are in this together. We should all be well informed. The third thing would be on agility. For businesses to explore perhaps new revenue streams, relook at your supply chain. We've learned this from examples from China. When there's disruption, everyone is impacted. So perhaps to diversify that supply chain that you have, and again, explore new markets. This is the time to do that now. To recap, visibility, control, and agility. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Kenny. All right, I've exceeded a couple of minutes, but I hope that's been very useful for everybody. And I just wanted again to do a call out. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Pifta. Thanks, Kenny, and thank you, Ruby, for your time. Thanks for sharing your insight, and thanks for sharing those learnings. More post-its, Kenny. Thanks. So I want to wrap that up very quickly in terms of the fireside chat. I wish we had more time. It's not easy to be able to invite so many distinguished guests in a panel, and so very grateful for that. Unfortunately, again, in the interest of time, we want to move on to the next portion, I think there was an underlying theme when we were sharing, or when our panelists were sharing some insights. The underlying theme there is there has to be change, some form of agility, but also I think this may have been picked up from Peter, is a lot of empathy, right? And I personally feel that our humanity is at risk. Our humanity is challenged at a time where our human relationships, our human interactions are quite limited. And now we have to look at what I would see as, can be seen as an enemy of humanity, can be technology, but now we're banking on technology. So that's a new way of looking at things. And as I introduce our next guest, she's going to provide us a new way of looking at things as well, while still maintaining the human element. And Abby is, you'll see that I always introduce people as my friend. So Abby's a good friend of mine as well. And let me just read this out very quickly. I just need to move the Post-its out of my screen. Abby Mapua is the founding director of the Hub of Innovation for Inclusion, HiFi, of De La Salle College of St. Benilde, a university-based innovation space and incubator, where she leads the mentorship of social innovators, support the development of impact ventures, and grows a community of cross-sector partners. She's also a co-founder, CEO, and chief experience designer of KindMind, a lab that enables businesses and organizations design services and experiences that drive business values, equitable and sustainable impact. Her depth of work in the intersections of academia, local communities, public and private sector presented her with the opportunity to cross-pollinate various disciplines and facilitate customer-centric research and co-creation of innovation. Abby is a certified experience designer of Chaos Pilot in Denmark, a fellow at the Unn School of Disruptive Design, trained in the management of innovations in Stanford University, and holds degrees in environmental science and economics from the University of the Philippines. So without further ado, remember to put on your new lens. I'd like to call in Abby.
Hi everyone. Thank you, VJ, for the very kind introduction. In behalf of KindMind, it is an honor to be here and share with all of you, just like what VJ said, a new lens, a new approach to recovery and innovation. So with the few minutes that is given me, I will walk you through 4 steps to reframing strategies for recovery and innovation. So just like VJ, I also have my Post-its from the 4 country speakers. I really think like what Peter mentioned regarding care, change, and being customer centric resonate with what I'm going to be sharing with you. So yeah, so let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, I want to start off with a quote by a journalist, Rebecca Solnit from The Guardian. So she said, "We have reached a crossroads, emerged from what we assumed was normality, and things have suddenly overturned. So one of our main tasks now is to understand this moment, what it might require of us, and what can it make possible." So I really like this this quote from The Guardian, because it gives us a sense of hope that there are things that could be made possible. Next slide, please. So it does feel like the rug has been pulled from beneath us, right? We are disoriented, especially I think for the first 1 month from every country's lockdown. We are disoriented and we are making an effort to bounce back, to stand up, and every country would have their own hashtags or terms of how they want to coin this effort to bounce back and this effort to stand up again. So we are given this unique chance to reset, and not just to reset, but to redesign how we possibly do business. Next slide. So we are all here. We are all in this point, 0. We're starting from scratch. We're doing a reset. Next slide, please. They say that the first step to moving forward is to first acknowledge where we are now, our context. We are in a time of immense vulnerability, where we all have this is surreal. all countries, we all share this experience, and this experience of broken systems have surfaced. A lot of things are broken in our world, and we now feel it more than ever. So we acknowledge that we have fragile systems. Next slide. See, this was a headline from last year. Even when there was no pandemic yet, the brokenness of our system is already being felt. So they say capitalism needs a reset. But this is all the more magnified now in the times that we are in now. Next slide. So globally, there's a shared experience of widening inequality, but most especially, next slide, in countries where, to begin with, the gap between the rich and poor has been high already. So a very good example would be the Philippines. Next slide. So welcome, welcome to this age of vulnerability, where we know nothing, except that for once we are aware of the fragility of our own systems. So we know nothing, we are disoriented, this is where we are right now. Next slide. Even though it is like that, I have always been a firm believer that each of us have agency. We have a sense of agency to shape our immediate and long-term future. I don't want to see ourselves as victims that we're just tossed in the tide and just relying on whatever country force or government force we are restricted under. So we are actually given a choice. So there is a choice before us. There is a fork in the road. Next slide. And this is actually what we will see in the fork in the road. So we have our options. Which direction do we want to go? So I created this quadrant that talks about the different directions that we could possibly go. Can you go to the next slide? Yes, there you go. So you will see here that if we feel hope and nostalgia, I would just want to go back to my old life. I just want to go back to my old ways of doing business. It has been very good for me. So we could go there. We could go in that direction. We could also go in the direction of nostalgia and fear. And what will that yield? It will yield, this is the end of it. There is no hope. There is nothing else we could do. Right? I am just frustrated, and I don't have access to anything. So you are now feeling a sense of collapse. There's also that side wherein you could think about some sort of a revolution, a change, but also create a sense of fear. So you know what? The world is in chaos. We need more discipline and control, right? But there's also that quadrant, that beautiful quadrant, and that beautiful direction of transformation, where you have a combination of hope and revolution and change. So I know that the previous country speakers talk about this one a lot, and we may have different ways of coining it. So for my session, for this session, I want to call it transformation. Next slide, please. So what is this path to change? What is this path to transformation? And perhaps what is transformation? So what is this path to our recovery? Next slide. So that's the third step already. Okay, this is interesting. This was a tweet. It is funny how the economy is collapsing. This is March. So now they're saying it is already collapsing because people are only buying what they need. So this is a wake-up call for everyone. I think it was VJ who mentioned that non-discretionary spending is recovering, whereas, which is, essentials and buying essentials, and rightly so. People are not into luxury items right now, at least for most part of the population. And if and when they buy non-essentials, the value it must provide must go over and beyond just the value of the product or service. There has to be an added value to it for people to actually step out and make that purchase. So Jair Lafontaine said, in a world where everything else has been commoditized, but this commoditized products and services and experiences are now put into question. Everybody's just questioning one of the things that have been said in the 4 C's of Peter, cash flow. Let's watch our cash flow. Everything is put into question. Transformation, this value of transformation may be the only thing left worth paying for. Is this really something I will pay for? Is this something that will give value to me in this time of uncertainty and vulnerability? Next slide. So quickly, this is a model of the transformation economy. And it goes beyond selling of products and services and experiences. So it talks about transformation as business that will make people better for themselves, better for others, and perhaps better for the planet, because this is now what people are looking for. Again, from the 4 C's, I have so many lessons from the 4 C's of Peter. Care. People are looking into care more than anything. And I really like it that that's the first C that was mentioned, is really care. People care for themselves and people care for other people. So will our business be able to provide that? Next slide. So interestingly, I will quickly take you through several examples, present examples. This is all coming from a study by Wunderman Thompson. So the shopping habits right now of the Generation Z and increasingly of older generation is spelling the end of fast fashion. So everything, people are looking into slow fashion. People are looking into things that are handmade, things that are not disposable, and things that we could keep for a lifetime perhaps. So again, more value, more transformational. And you know, small brands are not the only one doing that. Gucci has come up with its circular line fashion. It's moving away from their wasteful ways of production and consumption. Oh, I think maybe I skipped that one. Okay, there you go. Next slide, please. Oh, interestingly, just recently, friends from Singapore, Suntec City would normally have their annual Great Singapore Sale. So this year they created Shop Fest. It's their first ever live streamed event. So Suntec City decided to fill the void by offering a live event in which every night from June 23 to 26, just recently, shoppers could log on to the Suntec app, see new products presented by hosts, and purchase them through the app. Next slide. So part of the Shop Fest is that individual brands are given a platform to become creative and connect with their audience. And they call this one retail entertainment. So this is now the way in which brands are pivoting. And what's interesting is that they don't need to hire influencers or anything. It's really empowering each of the associates, each of the employees to be able to do this. Next slide, please. In the UK, retailers are looking to recreate the personalized experience of a live shopping assistant online. This is all online. So Currys, PC World, big electronics retailer, launched their new Shop Live services. So Shop Live allows customers to chat with experts via video about purchases from the comfort and safety of their homes. Given that, you know, buying electronics can be confusing, there are many tech aspects that we need to understand for a layman's perspective. As well, they could be expensive. So the ability to speak to a human expert is the key to the purchase decision. So they clearly understand what people need at this point when they cannot actually go to the store, touch and feel and do a demo. Next slide, please. In the Philippines, it's interesting. Sunny's Opticals launched Specs on Wheels, particularly for senior citizens and kids who are not allowed entry into the shopping malls, right? So, I mean, I've been trying to book Specs on Wheels, but I'm not allowed because I'm not within that demographic. So Spec on Wheels allows them to book an appointment and the service goes to where they are. Again, this is a step beyond the usual service of an optical shop. So this is really reaching out and connecting to their audience. Next slide, please. Canva. Canva has been what, 10, 12 years? But so they're saying it's the unicorn of Australia. What's interesting is they empathize with nonprofits and they know that nonprofits are suffering immensely due to funding challenges. So Canva genuinely empathizes by being that brand who is able to stay with them through thick and thin. I mean, I think this is very crucial that our brands are still top of mind. So we're not just there when things are good, we're also there with them when things are not so good. So how do we make ourselves felt? I think maybe that's one of the big questions we need to answer. Next slide. Okay, this is interesting. So these are all now emerging technologies and emerging businesses. The next iteration of PPEs, personal protective equipment, extends beyond the body and into environments such as our vehicles and even our homes. So these are examples of emerging businesses. So next slide. So you also have this example of decontaminated dwellings. So you have decontaminated closets, you have decontamination boxes, and many other products that are emerging right now. And I think this one is made by Samsung, if I'm not mistaken. Next one, please. So fourth step, last step, reframing our strategies. Fourth and last step is how do we now reframe our strategy? So let me share with you a powerful tool for innovation and transformation. As mentioned earlier in the beginning, VJ mentioned this, new lens in which we can look at our challenges. So this could be old challenges, and it could be new challenges arising from our situation right now, our global shared situation right now. So this tool induces new thinking, new mindsets, and new ways of doing. So I hope you will keep an open mind as I go through this one. Next slide. So when we reframe, we always start with a question that frames our path moving forward. So I want to pose this question, this challenge to everyone. How can our businesses recover and deliver? So I want to go beyond just recovery, because again, if and when people purchase, it has to have transformational value. So I want us to hinge on that, which resonate with a lot of customers right now. So how can our businesses recover and deliver transformational value in this age of vulnerability? Next slide. So design thinking. Perhaps some of you are familiar already with design thinking. Perhaps this is new, but nonetheless, I would like to introduce this tool, this powerful tool that induces, yes, you heard me right, it induces new thinking and new ways of doing. Some call it human-centered design. So it is a process of creative problem solving, focused on developing deep understanding of people for whom we're designing with. Take note, it's not designing for, it is designing with. So it places the pains, the aches, the challenges, the gains. What are the benefits? What are the values? What are the aspirations of people front and center above everything else? So that one first. So it is a process which can lead to innovations in products, services, not limited to also products and services, but even policies. So I've conducted design thinking for government agencies in terms of developing a plan of action and policies, developing innovations in experiences, in processes and systems. So design thinking democratizes this whole process of design, and it's not just relegated to those in the arts field, visual designers, graphic designers. It's not. You and I, we're all designers. We're all designing our lives. We're all designing our businesses. So when you sit down to create a solution for a business need, the first question should always be, what's the human need behind it? So it's interesting that, okay, maybe next slide. So design thinking takes us through an iterative process, which begins with a deep understanding of people. So that's the empathy part. So care, empathy. See what's the difference between sympathy and empathy. Empathy is deeper. Empathy is really putting ourselves in the shoes of others, and not just putting ourselves in the shoes of others, but really walking in their shoes. So you know that takes time. It doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come with just a mere interview or a one-time conversation. It is really immersing ourselves in their environment, in their context. So it's a deep understanding of people, first step. Defining the problem, second step. Third, ideating possible solutions from outside our usual silos or solution sets. That's why in design thinking, we always encourage people to attend multidisciplinary, meaning if you're in an organization, somebody from sales, somebody from marketing, somebody from IT, somebody from HR, we group them together, because we don't want to create solutions that are within our usual solution set. Innovation does not happen that way. So from ideation, what do? We quickly build a prototype of solution so we can test and get feedback from our audience and our customers, and then go back to perhaps, oh, you know what, this part is not working. So I define again the problem, I talk again to my audience, I ideate again, and I quickly build again. So if you're familiar with Agile, this one complements Agile as well. So this is the 5-step process of design thinking. It's always iterative. Next slide. Okay, in terms of lenses, if we look at design thinking, it's a human-centered approach to innovation and transformation, and it all starts with people. It all starts with care for people. How do we design something that people will enjoy using, be delighted to use again and again and again? It's something that doesn't tire them. It's something that adds value to their lives and help them achieve their personal goals, family goals, organizational goals, community goals. The next lens we need to look at, is it something that is implementable, operations and technology wise? The difference between invention and innovation is that innovation can be done now, in the immediate future. It is something that is relevant to us now. So last lens we need to look at in terms of design thinking and in terms of innovation is that, is it something financially viable, right? Or is this a design? Is this a service or a product that is a moonshot? So we're not really looking for that in terms of design thinking. So these are, very importantly, these are the three major lenses we look at in terms of designing solutions. And we start with human desirability. So maybe quickly, I mean, these are classic examples of how design thinking has been used. And there are many examples. MIT uses design thinking. Google would always regularly, as an SOP, hold design sprints. So this is GE. If you're familiar with this machine, it's an MRI machine. It's a top of the line MRI machine. So if you think about it, it has reached its goal of creating a top of the line MRI machine able to detect early stage cancer. But lo and behold, when kids were subjected to this MRI machine, normally, even they get scared. Because sometimes you could be in an MRI machine, depends on what the scan needs, for 5 minutes to a good hour to a good 2 hours. So they were potentially scared. They keep moving. So it's a disaster. So GE, if they think about this one, what could be done? There is nothing else. This is top of the line. This is the best technology. But then again, they realize, oh, so it's not just about the technology, right? So we're missing the human element. So what they did was to talk to a lot of kids, immerse in their context, get to know them, and what do they enjoy, what do they desire, and this is what they came up with. Next slide, please. Oops, I think I missed that slide. Probably deleted it, but I'm so sorry. But what you actually have in the next slide is an MRI adventure series. So the MRI machine, just imagine with me, is that it's dressed up, completely dressed up, even the walls, the surroundings, everything, into different kinds of adventure series, like a adventure ride. So one is a pirate ship, the other one is outer space, the other one is under the sea, and all technicians, doctors, and nurses would dress up. So it would make sense when the kids are asked to lie down and lay still. It makes sense because there's a story behind it. The pirate ship is on the deck. You need to sit still and be quiet. Okay, maybe we can show that one, Nathan. Thank you so much for surfacing that one. That's like, okay, so that is the one. So they dressed it up, and lo and behold, kids enjoyed it to the point that after the scan, they asked their parents, "Can I do it again? Can I have another ride?" So this is the power of listening and deeply understanding our customers. Perhaps the solution is not coming from the technology, but it can come from something else, and it will enable them to really appreciate the technology. So another example is, this is a classic example as well, coming from Singapore. So they asked the question, a huge bank, friends from Singapore, OCBC. So they realized, how come all our clients are in their 40s and 60s and 70s? Where are the young people? How might we make banks interesting for millennials and maybe right now for Gen Zs? So they spend time, they immersed in the context and culture of the young people, and this is what they designed. Next slide. So this is Frank. So they stopped using also as a big bold name for the bank, which is OCBC. They came up with a name that sounds like a friend, a buddy to the millennials and to the young people. So they named it Frank. And if you look at it from the outside, the experience of just looking at it from the outside, it does not look like a bank, does it? Looks like a tech store, perhaps. It looks like a cafe. Looks like a hangout place. So this is something that resonates with the younger generation. Next slide. This is how the interiors would look like. Next slide. And if you check their website now, or maybe later, this is what you will see. This is how their website looks like, and it's fantastic. So you can be a young people who's an executive, you could be a student. There are many different ways. If you want to stretch your income, if you want to gamify saving, they have it. So again, they created something, still same business goal, but resonating with a clear understanding of the demographic. Next slide. So weeks ago, KindMind happily facilitated a design thinking sprint for ITG regional teams, and I'm so happy with this experience. Next slide. So ITG, if you've missed the video in the start, is ripe actually and best fit to do design thinking because their reason for being is clearly anchored on providing transformative solutions and innovation. Interestingly, they just don't want to do it alone. They want to do it through co-creation. So ITG to its core is human-centered. Co-creation with their customers in their transformation journey. So in the spirit of co-creation, ITG looked into the challenges of businesses they are working with. So I want to share with you the next slide, one design challenge that we worked on. So how might we provide our growing number of customers a delightful way of doing business with us online? So I believe this was a design challenge that was addressed or worked on by teams Singapore and the Philippines. So I want to also, if you'll allow me the liberty to share what they created. So when we actually look at the problem, we also should have an end in mind. So the workshop started with a vision for the future. If this problem has been solved, what does it look like? And for Team Singapore and Philippines, the immediate future is what they're looking at. So in 3 months' time, they want to introduce a seamless and delightful end-to-end online experience that will implement an integrated order and inventory management to improve customer experience and brand reputation, because our customers deserve the best experience, and giving them the best experience will result in more sales. So I really like the intentionality of this vision, and this vision translated into an actual solution. Next slide, please. So the actual solution, before we delved into developing, ideating on solutions, we first came up with unique differentiators. If we are going to create a solution, ideate a solution, what will be 2 or 3 unique adjectives or differentiators we want our solution to have? And in knowing the clientele within Singapore and Philippines, they realized that simplicity and flexibility is the one that will resonate the most with the audience. So this is the solution that they came up with. It's a live shopping assistant that journeys with the customer from point of inquiry to after sales, assisting customers with their inquiries, recommendations on Best Buy, future discounts, and continued communication on product and service experience. So it's really end-to-end. So the shopping assistant can also provide a voice-activated navigation option for those who want to reduce screen stress and for those who are visually impaired. So I really like also the mindfulness behind all these things. Because what they say, I don't know in other countries, but in the Philippines, we call ourselves zombies, because of too much screen interactions, it becomes tiring. So they offer this voice-activated navigation. Next slide. So I don't want to overwhelm you with this table, but essentially this is a low resolution prototype design. So what we did was to actually break down the journey, the experience of customers. So for this instance, they looked at the journey of a millennial mom who is going shopping, right? So the journey of a millennial mom, touch points are from excitement or awareness into first interaction with the technology or with the service, engagement, exit, and extension. Extension, we could also think of this one as after sales program. So they looked at end-to-end interaction with the customers, and how could they make it meaningful and transformational at every step of the way. So happy to share that. I think in the breakout room, you might be spending more time on this one. For Design Challenge 2, next slide. This is a design challenge addressed by Malaysia and Indonesia. How might businesses with limited liquidity and access to technology find ways to operate and be a top of mind brand? Again, this is super relevant, right? We know that a lot of the small SMEs have definitely limited cash flow. And if limited cash flow, they also perhaps do not have access to technology. And yet they have this desire to still continue operating and to resonate and be a top of mind brand. So how do we help them? Next slide. Oh, hold on. It's the vision of the future. Okay, so for the vision of the future of Malaysia and Indonesia, they said in 3 months' time, we will start our transformation journey. Again, if you notice, their vision of the future is not a long-term future. It's something that needs to be done in 3 months' time. It's immediate. So we will start our transformation journey by allowing our business operation and adopt industry practice available in an out-of-the-box business management solution at the most acceptable cost. Again, it understands that cash flow and liquidity is limited and access to technology is also limited. So how did they design it? Quick view, next slide. So the solution has unique differentiators, and the unique differentiators that resonate with their customers is accessibility and practicality. Accessibility is not just about accessibility in terms of knowing where they can be found or being available to where they are, but also in terms of cost, accessibility in terms of cost. So they created something, they will create something, a 360-degree customer experience management system that will provide multiple touch points. Again, access wherever they are for increased accessibility and customizable package solutions based on the best practices in the industry, while at the same time providing flexible payment options. If I'm an SME, I would love this one, truly. Next slide. So we have come to the end of this sharing. Yes, there are many challenges that need to be addressed, most especially now. Before there are, but most especially now. And it seems like the challenges we have now are completely new and uncharted territories. But I need everyone to see that there are also many interesting opportunities surfacing. And it will only surface for those who deeply understand the market, their customers. And the customers, the market is so hungry right now in looking for transformational value, and not just products and services. So I do hope each one of us can ponder on this question and bring forth meaningful value to our customers. So I want to end by asking this question: what transformational value do you want to bring forth as a business? Next slide. So, and together, let's begin recovering and creating transformational value. Next slide. So thank you very much for bearing with me for a good 20 minutes, I think. I hope to be able to continue this conversation with you and possibly work on the recovery and transformational plan. So thank you very much and have a good day.
Thanks, Abby. Very much appreciate the sharing that you've done. Okay, in as much as we are all happy to be in one room, in one group, we'll do a bit of a breakout straight away. Again, in the interest of time, we'll keep rolling with this. So we'll break out into 3 rooms. I believe the magicians behind the scenes will essentially transport us magically into these different rooms. So we've got one room that will focus on more on the Philippines and Singapore side of things. And then we have a Malaysia and Indonesia breakout room. And then we have a special breakout room for our existing customers. So I wish I had a Thanos gauntlet chat rooms and just magically transport you back. So as we wrap up this this webinar, we would like to ask a very special guest. And you know, probably a quick disclaimer is that this was more of a last-minute addition, and it's because as we were going through this whole exercise, we realized that there needs to be a big oomph at the end of this whole webinar. And we talk about, you know, changing the way we do things. And I know we've emphasized a lot on the digital side of things. And we wanted to ask someone who has a lot of experience in terms of helping companies and organizations really embrace digital. So we're very happy to have Jason. So he's an experienced Vice President of Commerce who has demonstrated history of working complex, emerging mid-market and enterprise engagements within many different verticals. Strong strategic, operational, technical, and user experience skills. Well-seasoned in digital strategy, commerce, plus retail operations, manufacturing, distribution, search engine optimization, user experience, and online marketing. That's a mouthful, Jason. I've just put you on the spot.
I sound very impressive. I think I should just say, you know, good morning and goodbye after that.
Or maybe I should say what you're not. How about that? Okay, so
thank you, Vijay.
So we asked Jason to provide, you know, some insights on this thing we call digital, because it is part of the solution, part of the transformation. And again, in the interest of time, I'll let him just jump straight in and spare you my musical talents.
I think we're all grateful and looking forward to your YouTube channel in about 10 years. So good morning, ASEAN. A very big thank you to Vijay and Ruby, and on behalf of all Codelians globally, we really thank you for the opportunity to speak to everyone today. And if we could please go to the next slide, we will begin. All right, we are Codela. We are proud to be the Partner of the Year 2020 for retail, something that we really put a lot of pride and effort behind. Globally, we are a member of NetSuite's Commerce Agency program, which means that we implement and turn live, you know, visions of commerce, you know, all over the world. And we're also a member of the SuiteCloud Developer Network, which means not only can we get your commerce live, you know, in partnership with ITG, but we can also, you know, have a very big breadth and depth of knowledge of the third parties within SDN and the Suite apps that are necessary sometimes to get commerce live on NetSuite. Next slide, please. All right, so here at Codela, right, where, you know, we've built our success on more than just our awards for excellence, but also on the reputation from our clients as being a pragmatic and dependable company. The key to our success comes down to the detailed roadmaps that we build for our customers' journey from discovery to deployment and beyond. So within the time we have today, we're going to do a very brief introduction. We're going to talk about the NetSuite Commerce Platform, kind of give a little overview, and then commerce post-COVID. What does it mean? You know, the subject matters that we've spoken about, you know, that Peter Keck really, you know, got into the weeds about, which is care. You know, the design thinking notions that we've been discussing today. You know, how are we going to emerge from this, you know, with strength? And as the outlooks in the world are starting to, you know, kind of, you know, get a little bit better, you know, NetSuite as a source of truth for the ERP really drives an amazing, amazing commerce experience that we're going to talk about today. Next slide, please. All right, next slide again. All right, there we go. Okay, our vision is to be the excellence of execution for our clients. Our mission is to collaborate, support, and continually push the boundaries of what's possible in supporting our clients' digital operational business transformation. Next slide, please. All right, brief history of Codela. Codela was founded by Eric Beebe, Ron Albrechtsen, and Jeff Dennis on the premise of trust, mutual admiration, and respect way back in 2016. In 2018, we became NetSuite's Emerging Partner of the Year and opened up our International Development Hub in Manila in the Philippines, where we are right now, I think, more than 70 strong and growing at a healthy rate. We surpassed about 100 implementations at the start of 2019. We received the award for Alliances Breakthrough Partner of the Year, and then started to expand internationally in EMEA, Singapore, as well as throughout Asia, supporting the commerce endeavors of NetSuite's customers in the region. Next slide, please. All right, next slide again. Okay, to give a little primer about SuiteCommerce Advances, it is an integrated business management platform, right? We have your brand touch points on the top, marketplaces, catalogs, web store, mobile, sales reps, and call center. Within the suite itself, having commerce, customer care, which Peter Keck spoke about, and we're going to speak a lot more about that in the following slides. You know, promotions out of the box, merchandising out of the box, product content out of the box, CRM, order management, down to inventory fulfillment and financials. So again, you know, talking about the notion of retailers emerging from COVID, what's going to be the critical path? Buy online, pick up in store. Buy online, pick up in curbside. Enabling the NetSuite ERP to be able, with minor customizations and minor tweaks, along with vanilla SCA, even with a quick start version of SCA, just being able to bring these core retail concepts to life, you know, within a NetSuite ecosystem is just phenomenal. And then again, having detailed dashboards, commerce-focused dashboards, document management, payment gateways, you know, leveraging, you know, AsiaPay and Alipay in a region with over, you know, north of 85 different, you know, payment processor integrations and e-wallets within the collaborative cloud-based system. Next slide, please. Okay, again, Suite Payments out of the box, pre-integrated. We don't have to do anything. We plug and play and that's it. Again, Suite Apps and SDM partners, you know, again, logistics, you know, loyalty, order, you know, certain order management functionalities, WMS functionalities. So a lot of really interesting things that are just available out of the box with NetSuite SDM partners. And also out of the box advantages, right? You know, the Akamai CDN, $60,000 savings out of the box, that's included in the SCA license. Google Tag Manager for analytics, for pay-per-click, et cetera, et cetera. Schema.org and SEO. Again, out of the box, you know, machine-based tagging so that Google can understand, you know, the value of the site. You know, site management tools, so your customers can have that Shopify and Magento type experience right in the suite. And then finally, you know, to top it all off, you know, on-site search baked into the ERP with Elasticsearch. This means for those of you out there, you know, in the audience today who have customers that have 50 facets, 70 facets, you know, against their items, out of the box, performant on-site search, huge step forward for the platform. Next slide, please. All right, commerce post-COVID, what does this mean? Next slide, please. So as we look at commerce post-COVID and we look at the trending analysis, we can see the 2020 is the dark line, 2019 is the light line. As we could see that there has been a massive increase, you know, globally in how commerce has affected the lives of folks looking for the essential products that they need, but folks also looking for, you know, some of the non-essential products to enhance their lives. Next slide, please. Okay, omni-channel trends, buy online, pick up in store. I can't focus on this enough, okay? Retail is going to return to the way it was pre-1980s. What that means is that in 1980s, we saw an emergence of big box retailers across the world. Prior to that, small business owners that had a chain of 1 store, 10 stores, or 20 stores had a very unique opportunity to get to know their customers personally. What buy online, pick up in store enables these shop owners to do is to provide the white glove service that made retail great across the world until the world got saturated with malls and luxury goods stores on every corner. As we see this return to these retail trends, as we see the return to what made retail this amazing experience when we were children, the world is going to return to that. And again, buy online, pick up in store is going to be part of that critical path. Next slide, please. Now, as we look at different verticals that are benefiting from e-commerce, business supplies, right? Consumer medical supplies, fashion, apparel, electronics. So we're not seeing huge growth on the bottom with the charts, but on the top side, we're seeing people adjusting to working from home. So they need their business, you know, printers. They need hard drives, new lamps, new monitors. You know, what's going to make them comfortable when they're at home? Again, going back to the design thinking conversation of how those GE MRI machines all of a sudden were optimized for children. We're seeing the same exact thing happen across the world in every vertical. So people are adjusting what they're buying to the way their life is now. And then when COVID ends and we all go back into the world, the moment in time that we're marking right now with the products we buy is going to mark the future of the retail behaviors of everyone that we're going to be selling to. So it's very important to look at how this is going to shape the future of retail and realize that, you know, when it comes to business supplies, commodities, collectibles, and consumer medical supplies, you know, even if it's just the simplicity of having, you know, a blood pressure monitor that you can apply to your arm from cardio and look at your iPhone, you know, stuff that's going to make people's lives easier when it comes to tracking their health and tracking how they're developing and how their health is improving, that's going to become part of the critical path of what people are going to be buying. So again, looking at the retail trends, what's not essential has to be pivoted, changed to, readapted to quickly. And then again, leveraging NetSuite, subsidiaries in NetSuite, Suite Commerce Advanced, this is all achievable, and we will all emerge stronger and smarter from this whole experience. Next slide, please. And now going into grocery goods, no surprises there, home goods and decor, furniture businesses, Codella's own customers in ASEAN, in America, 235 to 400% growth year over year due to COVID. Leisure and outdoor, okay? People are now rediscovering nature, going on nature hikes, buying kayaks, buying snorkeling equipment, getting out into nature, rediscovering the world, okay? Those businesses and the customers that you have that have accessories, that have business models, that have inventory, that can be pivoted and adjusted to what you're seeing here are the ones who are going to be successful. They're going to have the design thinking. They're going to have the opportunity to deliver great care and great customer service. This is where the world is going. This is where the force is taking us. We must adapt to it, and the ones that adapt and the ones that could really figure it out with ITG, with Codella, with NetSuite are the ones that are going to thrive in the long term. Next slide, please. How to build a commerce strategy in 2 slides. I promise, 2 slides. Slide number 1, building solid relationships. As Peter Keck spoke about the notion of care, you know, and as the late Mark Hurd would say, you know, during all of the Oracle and NetSuite, you know, gatherings, hair on fire, customer service wins the day, okay? My grandfather, my grandfather's grandfather, and my great-great-grandfather all had retail stores in downtown Manhattan, New York City. They knew their customers. They were sympathetic, and they helped them, okay? Again, retail is changing to the way it was pre-1980s, all right? Adjusting to the new normal. Adjust your messaging, your imagery. Be sympathetic, be empathetic, okay? The how of solid relationships. Sympathy, right? Listen and be ready to act. Go into NetSuite, generate a coupon code, make that person feel good that just lost their job, they're consulting now, they're looking for work, they're gonna start a business, help them get better, and you will have them for life as your customer, full stop. Retail is just that simple. Help the people get what they need, and they will come back to you for more. It's a dead simple concept. It has not changed in 5,000 years. Empower. What can I do to build confidence in the brand? Again, the CRM, know your customer. What's their birthday? What's their favorite thing? What drives them, okay? Deliver amazing care and amazing customer service. And then surprise and delight. Have promotions that are not, you know, known. Someone goes onto a website, all of a sudden 35% off of something. Oh, I had no idea. Surprise and delight. Build the trust, build the value. You own the relationship. When you own the relationship, you have them for life. And that's what the new normal is. Not normal. There is no new normal. There's nothing new under the sun. We're returning to the way the world used to be. And the only difference is that we have technology to drive it. Next slide, please. Okay, I know I realize we're going a little bit over. I'm going to go as fast as I can, but just delivering us some points right here. Okay, so the digital strategy, how are we going to get focused? It's a 5-step strategy: visual, promotions, products, and social media, right? After the webinar, feel free to reach out to ITG Asia. They'll bring Codella into the conversation. We'll go through these strategies at length, you know, for those that are interested, and we're really getting into the weeds with it. Next slide, please. Thank you. So again, thank you to VJ. Thank you to everyone at IT Asia for inviting us today. On behalf of all the Codellians, you know, we look forward to supporting ITG Asia's clients in operationalizing their commerce strategies and doing everything we can to ensure that their customers know that a brighter day is ahead and that everything's going to be all right. So thank you very much.
Jason, I won't even ask how many cups of coffee is keeping you awake at this such
It was just one.
crazy
It
hours.
was just one, Vijay. It was just one.
Thanks again, and thank you to all the Codelians. Is that what you call it?
Codelians, yeah. So we have like an army of Codelians. They're all over the world.
Okay, awesome. To share some final thoughts, we're very fortunate to have our chairman and CEO, Chris. Well, just some quick reminders as well. But we wanted to ask Chris to just do a bit of a wrap up. Some key takeaways before we pass the mic to Chris. Firstly, is COVID pandemic has forced us to change how we do business. We just shared about design thinking as one of the frameworks to solve problems, again, with that new lens and focus on customer centricity. Business solutions are available. I think if you don't know that by now, then something's amiss. They're out there, technologies out there, great technologies out there. NetSuite is your digital transformation platform. ITG, as well as our great partners such as Cadella, are your co-creative innovation partners for transformative solutions. And without further ado, again, Chris, I'd like to ask for a few words from you.
Thank you, Vijay. Good morning, ASEAN. Salamat pagi. To our Muslim brothers, let me greet you in advance. Salamat Idul Adha. Let me thank you for joining today's webinar. I hope that you found great value and we've added value to you as well this morning. Now, before I wrap up and conclude our togetherness, let me first do a shout out to all the frontliners. I'd like to honor them by taking this time to thank them. If you have family members, if you have friends who are part of this frontliner in this war against the COVID virus, please, in behalf of ITG and Oracle NetSuite, please extend our appreciation to them for their service, for their sacrifices, in fulfilling their duties for humanity. Now, this COVID pandemic has taken countless lives and also taken countless livelihoods. And in this new world that we live in, it seems like everything is in chaos, and we are trying to grapple and find our footing to be able to recover. Now, the great mathematician and scientist Albert Einstein once said that in the midst of crisis comes great opportunities. In the midst of crisis lies great opportunities. And but the problem is, during crisis, when we are in the process, in the midst of crisis, we're all too clouded by the worries, the anxieties, and we are weighted by the painful experiences that we go through. That sometimes we often neglect to see that the many underlying, and some of it are already obvious opportunities that lie in front of us. But I believe that through the course of history of humanity, that we are resilient. We are resilient. And while I believe this crisis has disrupted our lives, this is not the worst crisis that humanity has faced. But before resiliency happens, limits must be tested and it must be stretched. And so let me repeat that: before resiliency happens, limits must be tested and stretched. And for that, and that would create, and that would cause us to break through and experience resiliency. Now, take for example, I'm still wearing my lockdown hairstyle, and I haven't visited the barber shop for almost 6 months now. My last haircut was around end of January, and this is like a test of limits. Actually, I'm testing the limits of my wife, the patience of my wife regarding my look. But kidding aside, we have been talking about digitalization for so many decades now. Previously we used the words computerization or automation, and today we use the terminology digital transformation. And during this span of 2 hours, I hope that we have made it clear about how we, as part of humanity, can overcome this crisis that we are all facing. Of course, with the tools that we presently have in our time. The universe is again testing and pushing us to another level of breakthrough. And in the many aspects of our lives, whether it be in the physical or the emotional and some spiritual, I know for certain that by the mercy of God, there'll be a time that we will all be on the other side of this pandemic. And so with that, let me give you my parting words. Through COVID, let's all venture together. I thank you again, and good morning to everyone.
Thank you, Chris. And on that note, rise now from the business crisis with revolutionizing transformations worth investing on. And a call out to everybody, call to action, it's time to go digital. On that note, thanks again, and be safe and be